Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in merry old England. The English language continues to be contorted by politicians, and I'm not talking about American politicians this time, the Democratic Party, or those in business who use euphemisms like previously owned automobiles, that would be used cars. Yeah, now I'm talking about politicians in South Africa. The Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, answering questions in Parliament, told a member of the Freedom Front Plus, answering his written question, that broad-based black economic empowerment is not discriminatory. The effort to balance the scales and help those previously disadvantaged by apartheid is perfectly legitimate, and it's not discriminatory. Well, there's a couple problems with that statement. First of which is, frankly, it's a bold-faced lie. Of course it's discriminatory. The very nature of broad-based black economic empowerment is discriminatory. That is its whole basis for existing, to discriminate against a group of people to promote another group of people. It's quite frankly discriminatory. The entire purpose of BEE is to discriminate against groups to advance other groups. By definition, that's discrimination. But not only is it discrimination, it's also racist, and it harms everybody. But here's the thing. When we talk about discrimination, it also discriminates against all South Africans, not simply white minority South Africans or coloreds or Indians. They're the obvious victims of racial discrimination, the obvious victims of clear legal discrimination in BE. But all South Africans, including black South Africans, are also victims of this. Now stay with me. You might be saying, how can 80% of the population be discriminated against by 80% of the population? It's quite simple. What if the ANC actually upheld educational standards? And what if, in a magical world, they held South African children to the educational standards they should? And instead of 30%, 30%, 30%, and 40% in their first language, in those four subjects, they actually held them up to a passing mark of 70 or above. And instead of promoting gangsterism and stupidity and welfare, they promoted entrepreneurialism and thrift and hard work and faith and respect for human life and dignity. If that were the case, 30 years after the end of apartheid, there's a very real possibility that more than 80% of black South African kids could exceed and excel and would find themselves in positions of prominence in industry, in education, in government, in science. Very well could be the case, but unfortunately, education has gone the opposite direction. The government of South Africa has dumbed things down, turned South Africa into a banana republic in many respects, where people are just rapaciously eating off the resources of the state, which are the resources of the few who pay taxes, and stealing things left and right. You know, now there's angst and anger within the African National Congress that the Minister of Corrections, Dr. Peter Groenewald, has decided to use the prisons to bake bread. Now, why would that be a problem for the ANC? Quite simply, the problem is this, that by baking bread in the prisons to make the prisons self-sufficient and reduce the cost to the taxpayer, you cut a privileged elite cater with a tender out of the process, and thereby you keep the hungry, rapacious, thieving ANC patronage network starving. We can't have that. We can't have that. You see, BEE is simply a way to enrich the few elite connected South Africans. It has nothing to do with protecting all South Africans. It has everything to do with entrenching, protecting, and in a small manner, expanding broad-based black economic empowerment's patronage network. Instead of delivering service, instead of delivering quality, instead of delivering economic advancement for all South Africans, particularly for black South Africans, what BEE has done is it entrenched a small coterie of wealthy, connected, rapacious, thieving bastards who are destroying the country from within. And that benefits nobody. So it is discriminatory, Deputy President Mashatile. It discriminates against all South Africans, black, white, and brown. But it's especially pernicious because it is also racial in its intent to harm the racial minorities of South Africa, to get even. It's a vengeance piece of legislation. You can deny it all you want, but all we have to do is look at the results. The results are clear for the world to see. What has happened in South Africa under ANC rule and under the implementation of BEE. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. There are 3 times as many black South Africans living in abject poverty as did under the National Party and apartheid. Not an excuse for apartheid. It was an abysmal abomination. But the reality is people live better than they live now. And instead of producing a generation of aspiring artists and scientists and policemen and doctors and soldiers and farmers, you produce generations of poverty, generational poverty, which is what you produced. And people expecting handouts from those who do while they're being attacked. At the same time, your policies along with the actions of the Mkonto Sizwe Party and the Economic Freedom Fighters, and many members of the ANC, have stoked racial discord, racial hatred, and oppression. Just look at the recent response to what happened with the loss of Dricus du Plessis. He's been racially assaulted and attacked endlessly on social media over something he never did, over a fictitious, ginned-up lie. You see, they're accusing Dricus of spreading the myth of white genocide, something he's never done. In comments, Dricus commented about people being murdered in South Africa. People. People. Black people are people. Colored people are people. Indian people are people. And white people are people. Dricus never said any of the lies that they're claiming. You see, it's always the left that runs and trots out the fake white genocide narrative and then blames white minorities for spreading the rumor when they're the ones doing it. And this is the environment that white South Africans, coloreds, and Indians have to live in. It's disgraceful. It's unacceptable. And so Paul Mashatile seeks to redefine the term discrimination. It isn't going to work. It isn't going to work. You see, here in America, we had decades of state-sanctioned discrimination. It was called affirmative action, which is not affirmative. All it does is promote a group of people based on an immutable factor, their skin pigmentation. And when you do that, you're no better than the apartheid government. Deputy President Mashatile, no better than the apartheid government. Differentiating people based on skin pigmentation, which they have no control over. What you can fix is culture, and you can fix the broken ANC culture, or step aside, because you're going to be pushed aside in the next national elections. The ANC is gone. It's over. The party is over. So steal what you can while you can, ANC, because it's all going to come crashing down before you know it. People have had enough of your nonsense. What say you, South Africa, Mzansi? Cheers.